Hello, welcome back to Learning Curves. I'm Anastasia, and today I want to talk to you about the results of my NoMovember theme and tracker. It went like this. So the idea behind this month and theme was to literally declutter. In September, I did some intangible decluttering, and in NoMovember, I did some literal decluttering. So I'm going to share with you the things that I decluttered, and then I'm going to tell you the tips and tricks I accumulated on the way for how to more effectively declutter and be more decisive. So from the start, making these themed trackers and months, the goal was to have something to shoot for, and the thing I definitely wanted to avoid was any kind of shame or potential failure feeling. So I granted myself a lot of grace in this month, but I feel like got a lot of things accomplished. There are only a few categories that I really did a deep dive into. A lot of them I just sort of touched and then filled in the coloring thing. For instance, towels. And talking with my husband, he was like, I think that we're okay on towels. And all of the towels I thought we could have gotten rid of, he's using for other purposes, not his body. But it's not like the towels that I'm like, that's only good for a dog. He's like, what? So we didn't actually end up rehoming any towels, but since I decluttered that out of my mind, the idea of getting rid of some towels, I filled that in and considered that decluttered. Bedding, we did not declutter. Magazines, I collected all of them. I found almost every issue from like March 2020 through December 2021. And I have them all in a stack, so I'm ready to rehome them whenever I find a place to rehome them to. Baby toys is another category I didn't get to. The categories where there are things scattered throughout the home can sometimes feel really overwhelming because I feel like I need to Marie Kondo them and collect them all and look at them all at one time, and that can feel really overwhelming. So I have some tips that I'll share at the end that kind of help combat that. But long story short, baby toys was another category I didn't get to. And then the last category I didn't get to is craft supplies. I have so many craft supplies. They're all in the room that we call my shop, which is the room where I edit and where I work. I work from home. Only I and sometimes our dog really use that room. And that room has become very much a dumping ground for a bunch of things. I'll get into that in a little bit. That kind of is the lowest priority, although I think it's going to be an increased priority in spring of 2021 too. That's spring of 2022. So baby books was one category that I sat down, I collected all of them. We have some in our living room, we had some in our guest room, some in the basement, in each of our daughter's rooms, in our room. So I collected all of them, I put them all on our bed, went through all of them, and it was tough decluttering. I ended up sorting through them like 3 times. There were 2 that I got rid of that I have to now go to the thrift shop and see if I can get them back, because one of them I was supposed to repair and keep, and I repaired it and put it in the box. And then the other one I think we had 2 versions of it, and I was like, oh, well, we'll just get rid of this version. And I think that the version I got rid of had a note in it to our 3-year-old before she was born. It's not the end of the world. I'm the only one who's gonna remember it, and hopefully eventually, out of sight, out of mind, I will forget. Okay, the next category I went through was my clothes. When I went through them, I was just finishing my breastfeeding journey with my 1-year-old. We're still kind of doing some comfort nursing, but I think that my supply is gone. And it's like the second my milk supply goes away, I lose some weight. I don't even know if it shows up on the scale, but my body changes and my clothes fit differently. So I kind of wish I would have waited a little longer to go through these clothes, because maybe there were some things that I felt like were a little snug then that would have felt fine now. But whatever, we went on a trip for Thanksgiving, and packing for that Thanksgiving trip was so much easier because it wasn't like, oh, I can't take that. I don't like wearing that. I don't like wearing that. I don't like wearing that. It was like, oh, all I have left are MVPs. Cool. Get in my suitcase. And it went so much faster, and I did not overpack as much as I usually do. So as I was going through my clothing, I really just kind of set aside my nursing and postpartum stuff. There were a few things that I didn't use and I know I'm not going to use that I am going to rehome, but there are a few things that I know I would use if I were to have another baby and be in a postpartum experience or breastfeeding relationship again. Those I have packed up and ready to use should I need them, or donate should I not. And then newborn stuff, I didn't go through the diapers, but I did get rid of my sister who has a daughter. I want to say decorated. She accessorized her baby so much more than I did. She used to be really annoyed that I wasn't accessorizing my daughters. So there were so many really cute headbands. I want someone who's going to use them, someone like my sister who would be excited to have them. So those have been rehomed. So I want to come back to these in just a minute and talk about for sale. There were only a couple things that I actually posted online. It felt like it was kind of a hassle, and some people will just say, are these available and not say anything. It seems like corresponding with people is kind of annoying. We'll see, maybe I'll just end up donating them. So the boxes. The pink box I labeled miscellaneous because before NoMovember started, I kind of cheated. I had a box in the kitchen and I had a box in my shop that had just been like the place where I would just put stuff that I want to donate. So there were 2 boxes that I had as like a quick win that I took to the donation site like on November 1st. The next one was, I guess literal, but kind of future decluttering. Anytime we got mail that I didn't want, like physical snail mail that I didn't want, I would reach out and cancel it, whether it be for the previous owners. Instead of just saying they don't live here anymore, I would go to the website for the catalog and say, this person no longer lives here. Please stop sending catalogs to this address. Or we are not interested in receiving this mailer. Thank you. Please remove us from your list. I have 6 marked here, but I know I did it for like 3 more. Another thing I decluttered was contact cases. Apparently you're supposed to get rid of your contact cases every 3 months. And I've learned that when it comes to recycling, contact cases, like the material in most places is recyclable. However, something like this used to be recyclable in St. Louis, but I learned they're not anymore because of a new sorting process. It's not that the materials aren't recyclable, but plastic goods need to be at least 3 inches. So what I can do is take those contact cases and put them in like a wider mouth water bottle, like a Gatorade bottle or something if we had that. I put it in there, put the other lid on, recyclable. Similarly, I reached out, I think St. Louis City Recycles, and asked a question of the recycling experts there, asked about Medela baby bottles. They've said anything that's a plastic bottle or container, so something that holds its shape, that's not styrofoam, is recyclable. But in the past, I've heard that that does not pertain to reusable goods. It's only for like single use, like food packaging type stuff. I know the silicone parts aren't recyclable. They said yes, all of those parts, as long as the lids are reattached, or which for some of them I like shove the lids in bottles. But all of those plastic parts, as long as they are 3 inches or larger, are recyclable. So I recycled a bunch of baby bottles. And the most shame I have about my shop, it's really that I will hoard recyclables in there. And it's because I know that they need to be rinsed and that takes time. And I know that if I put them out somewhere where I intend to rinse them, but I'm not going to rinse them right away, my husband will grab them and put them in the recycle bin because he's not as particular about recycling as I am. And I don't want them to contaminate and or be ineligible for recycling. So I want to make sure that they get rinsed and sorted appropriately. Or if it's a plastic bag that needs to have stickers cut off of it, or whatever the situation is, if I think there's like a step that needs to happen before it's able to be recycled and I can't just put it in the bin, then I'll put them in bags and put them in my shop until I magically am supposed to have time to go through them. Well, in NoMovember, I made time. So I went through 2 or 3 bins of recyclable stuff. It was relatively easy. The paper stuff I would just put in a paper bag. And then the rinse stuff I would just a couple at a time take and rinse and set out to dry earlier in the morning so that by the time my husband came home from work, they were dry and could go in the recycling bin. And then the plastic stuff I would just wait until I was having lunch or watching a YouTube video or something and then just sit there with scissors and cut the labels out and bag, trash. So overall, myself 5 months ago would have been like, you didn't declutter the baby bottles, there are still some left. You didn't declutter your postpartum clothing, you still have it in the house. You didn't declutter any towels, you didn't get rid of any. But that is not this girl anymore. Getting a few steps closer is so much better than no steps because I can't get to the end. So something I thought was interesting, I thought I was gonna want to really focus on these categories. I thought that was gonna be more helpful to have a list of things to declutter so I didn't have to think about what should I declutter. But I really found myself going through these guys a lot more quickly, partially because it didn't feel like a giant category I had to go through. You know, like decluttering junk mail was like anytime something comes in, I just look up how to get off the mailing list and that's it. I get rid of it and I let it out of my brain. Or contact cases. That was, you know, just a thing I went through and got rid of. I think it was helpful to be able to focus on a category that I felt in that moment acutely motivated to tackle instead of, I've got craft supplies on here. I really better tackle those craft supplies. I know that Marie Kondo talks a lot about categories being important to declutter, like everything in a category at the same time. But for me, it feels really overwhelming to collect everything. So there were some other resources that I viewed videos on to learn how to declutter better. And largely those videos were the Clutterbug, I love her, and the Minimalist Mom. I'm going to share with you a couple things that they shared in their videos that I found really helpful. One of the things was don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Cass at the Clutterbug actually talked about, she is the Clutterbug? Anyway, Cass, she was actually talking about cleaning your house and like why your house feels like it's always messy. I'm gonna kind of plagiarize what she was saying and say that sometimes we will hold off on decluttering a certain category until we feel like we can get everything from that category together and go through and declutter it. But I mean, what does it matter really? If I'm looking at a group of something and I'm like, I think I can get rid of this. What harm is there in getting rid of that right away? You know, I'm gonna feel good about that victory of just getting something out the door that I know I don't need and focus on that progress and not perfection. So there were two ideas that came to me from the Minimalist Mom that I was like, what? So the kind of less exciting one is that she said anytime you're planning to declutter, you go into that room with a black trash bag and a donate box. And the black trash bag, it needs to be black so that you can't see what's in it, so that once you've thrown something away, the decision has been made, and you know, other people in the home, because she's got older kids, aren't coming by to be like, what's that? I want that. Go get rid of that. You're putting it in there, you're making the decision, it's getting out of the home. And then the donate box, you get it out of your home quickly so that you're not, well, maybe I should go get that. Maybe I should, I don't know. When I went through and decluttered the books, or when I decluttered my clothes and I knew they were sitting in my husband's trunk until he dropped them off on his way home from work, it felt unfinished and I had anxiety about it. But once I knew it was at the donation center, I was like, oh, except for those 2 books. So the other thing I learned from the Minimalist Mom, which was, I'm so excited to share this with you. She talked about inventorying items. She'd say, is this something that's container worthy or do I want to inventory this item? I'm still a little uncertain about the container worthy piece, but as far as inventorying it, I was like, what are you, a stock room? What is this? Doesn't make sense to me. And the more she talked about it, I started to get it. But she was like, it doesn't cost nothing to keep something. And this kind of goes back to, actually it was her video where she was like apologizing to Marie Kondo, where she learned about the silent to-do list, where, you know, everything in your home is speaking to you. Her point is that it's not free to store things. There is a cost. There's the cost of finding a place to put it, remembering where you put it, and caring for the item. You know, nothing has no life. It's at the very least, it's going to get dusty. The last thing is something I actually didn't do, but I think if I was really scared to get started, it would have been a great thing to start with. I had this motivation. I made this challenge for myself, but I think if you're having trouble getting motivated, a quick win you can do is to go around your house with, like Minimalist Mom says, a black trash bag and a donate box, and just go into a room and immediately, what can go? Forget categories. What can I get rid of? Right here, right now, what can I get rid of? For me, I would also need to have a third container that's a recycle bin. Okay, the very last thing I want to leave you with is something that at first I found really upsetting. I kind of went through the stages of grief with it, I guess. I think it was Cass, the Clutterbug, who was talking about how decluttering needs to not be like a thing that you do on special occasions. It just needs to be part of your life, a constant thing that you're always doing, because we're always accumulating things. And I just, as we're pulling all the Christmas decorations out, I'm just feeling a little overwhelmed with everything that we have and knowing how much more is coming into my house. I'm just excited to continue to be in a state of decluttering and just have that be a consistent practice in my life, because it feels good to have more space back. Because even just getting rid of those 3, there's a lot of words that I'm maybe not using correctly. Recycle box bin things in my shop, getting rid of those has opened up so much more space in that room. And I'm really excited to spend some time transforming that space in 2022. A spoiler for an upcoming video. I'll link in the description box a lot of the videos that I watched that I found inspiring on my journey. I'll also link the tracker for NoMovember. You can switch out the icons. The website I use for those icons is Flat Icon, and it's free to download I think all of the icons on there. Good luck, happy decluttering, happy all the things, happy the holidays, happy the happy. I'm very excited about my next video, so I hope you'll tune in for that. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like this video and please subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye.